The snow fell softly on Christmas Eve, dusting the manicured lawn of Danielle and Jason's suburban Seattle home. Inside, the living room buzzed with holiday cheer. A towering Christmas tree glittered with ornaments, stockings hung over the fireplace, and the scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air. Helen Thompson, 69, stood near the tree, arranging gifts with care. Her silver hair was pulled into a neat bun, and her deep red sweater gave her a festive glow, though her eyes carried a quiet weariness. She'd spent weeks preparing for this night, baking peppermint brownies, wrapping presents, and dreaming of a warm family gathering. For Helen, Christmas was a sacred tradition, a chance to weave her love into the fabric of her daughter's family. Her daughter, Danielle, 42, sipped wine and chatted with guests, her stylish sweater catching the light. Jason, her husband, a slick real estate agent with a booming laugh, adjusted his tie. Their kids, Lucas, 16, and Mia, 12, lounged on the couch, absorbed in their phones. Helen approached Danielle, holding a tray of brownies. "Sweetheart, I made your favorites. Should I set them out now?" she asked, her voice warm but tentative. Danielle glanced up from her phone, distracted. "Oh, Mom, sure. Just put them somewhere. I'm organizing the gift exchange." Helen nodded, masking a pang of disappointment, and placed the tray on the buffet table, where it blended into the spread of store-bought treats. The room grew quiet as Jason raised his glass, calling for a toast. "All right, everyone, gather around," he announced, his voice cutting through the chatter. Guests formed a loose circle, and Helen stood at the edge, clutching a glass of cider, her smile hopeful. Jason held up a note card, grinning. "This year, we're doing something special. A little poem for someone who's always here, always present." Snickers rippled through the room, and Helen's smile faltered. She sensed something off but couldn't place it. Jason cleared his throat, reading with theatrical flair. "Roses are red, violets are blue, Helen's past her prime, and we're done with you too." The words hit like a slap. The room erupted in laughter. Danielle covered her mouth, giggling. Lucas smirked, scrolling on his phone. Even Mia, confused, laughed because the adults did. Helen froze, her glass trembling in her hand. Her face flushed, and her eyes welled with tears. The words echoed in her mind. Past her prime, done with you too. She'd given this family everything. Her time, her money, her heart. And they'd turned it into a punchline. "Is this supposed to be funny?" she asked, her voice breaking. Danielle waved it off. "Oh, Mom, don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke. Lighten up." Jason picked up the card, smirking. "Yeah, Helen, we're just teasing. But, maybe it's time to slow down a bit." The room spun. Helen set her glass down, her hands shaking. "I need some air," she whispered, grabbing her coat and slipping out into the snowy night. On the front porch, Helen leaned against the railing, snowflakes catching in her hair. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pulled a small wrapped gift from her pocket, a custom bookmark for Mia, engraved with "Dream Big." She'd spent hours choosing it, imagining Mia's smile. But now that image felt naive. She thought she was their rock, their anchor, but to them she was a burden, a joke. The humiliation burned, but beneath it something else stirred, clarity, resolve. Helen wiped her tears, her expression hardening. They didn't know who she really was, but they were about to find out. That night, in her modest Seattle home, Helen sat at her desk, surrounded by papers. Bank statements, royalty checks, and a faded manuscript titled The Starlit Path by Eleanor Gray. 40 years ago, she'd written a series of children's books under a pseudonym, stories of brave kids finding their way through magical worlds. The books had sold millions, and the royalties still flowed into a bank account her family knew nothing about. She'd kept it secret, wanting their love to be for her, not her money. Opening her laptop, she stared at a balance of $450,000. She'd been their silent benefactor for years. $30,000 for Danielle and Jason's house down payment, $15,000 for Danielle's car, $5,000 for Lucas's summer camp, $3,000 for this year's Christmas gifts. Every dollar was giving out of love, but it had bought her nothing but disregard. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, then typed decisively. She canceled the recurring $600 monthly transfer to Danielle's account. No more. She whispered, "I'm done being their ATM." Helen's gaze fell on a real estate listing she'd saved, a charming cabin in Port Angeles, Washington, nestled in a pine forest with a view of the Olympic Mountains. She'd dreamed of a quieter life, but fear of losing her family had kept her tethered to Seattle. Now that fear was gone. "This is where I start over," she said to herself, clicking purchase. A week later, she stood outside the cabin, unloading boxes from a rental truck. Snow dusted the ground, and the air was crisp, scented with pine. The cabin was rustic but warm, with a stone fireplace and large windows framing the mountains. Inside, she unpacked books, placing The Starlit Path on a shelf. She traced the cover, remembering the nights she'd written those stories for Danielle, then a little girl with wide eyes and endless questions. "I wrote these for you," she murmured, "but I lost my own path somewhere along the way." Her phone buzzed. Danielle's name flashed on the screen. She hesitated, then silenced it. She wasn't ready to face them, not yet. In Seattle, Danielle paced her kitchen, frustrated. "She's not answering," she told Jason, who was scrolling on his laptop. "And the bank says the monthly transfer didn't go through. What's going on?" Jason shrugged, irritated. "Maybe she finally got the hint. She's been hovering forever." Danielle frowned. "She's not hovering, she's Mom. She's just lonely." Jason snorted. "Then why's she ghosting us? And where's our money?" Mia entered, holding Helen's bookmark. "Why isn't Grandma coming over anymore?" she asked. Danielle exchanged a guilty look with Jason, but said nothing. A month later, Helen sat in her cabin, typing furiously at her desk. A new manuscript, The Silver Path, took shape. A story of a grandmother finding courage in a magical forest. The room was now cozy, with bookshelves and a crackling fire. Writing had saved her once, and it was saving her again. An email from her publisher, Margaret, a sharp woman in her 60s, popped up. "Helen, The Silver Path is brilliant. Kids will love it, and so will their parents. Let's publish this spring." Helen smiled, a spark of pride in her eyes. She wasn't just a grandmother or a bank account. She was Eleanor Gray, a creator, a storyteller. By spring, she stood at a book festival in Port Angeles' town square, signing copies of The Silver Path. The square buzzed with families, food stalls, and live music. Helen, vibrant in a navy blazer, chatted with readers. A young girl, about 10, beamed as she took her signed book. "Miss Gray, your stories make me feel like I can do anything," she said. Helen smiled. "That's because you can, sweetheart." Across the square, Mia watched, clutching a copy of The Starlit Path. She approached, hesitantly. "Grandma? Miss Gray?" Helen looked up, startled, her expression softening but guarded. "Mia, what are you doing here?" Mia fidgeted, holding her bookmark. "I read your books, all of them. I didn't know you were Eleanor Gray. Why didn't you tell us?" Helen's voice was quiet but firm. "I wanted you to love me for who I am, not what I've done." Mia's eyes welled up. "I kept this," she showed the bookmark. "It made me want to write stories too. I'm sorry about Christmas. I didn't know the poem would hurt you." Helen studied her, seeing genuine remorse. "It wasn't just the poem, Mia. It was years of being taken for granted." Mia nodded, tearful. "Mom and Dad are struggling without your help, but I miss you, not the stuff you gave us. Can I visit you sometime?" Helen paused, then nodded. If you want to know me, the real me, then yes, but it's on my terms now. Mia smiled, hopeful. A month later, Helen and Mia sat at the cabin's table, writing together. Mia scribbled a short story about a brave girl and her grandmother, while Helen offered gentle feedback. You've got a knack for this, Helen said, smiling. Mia beamed. I want to be like you, Grandma. The doorbell rang, and Helen opened it to find Danielle, holding an envelope, looking nervous. Mom, we found your letters about the money, the books, everything. I'm so sorry. We didn't know. Helen's voice was firm. You didn't know because you didn't care to ask. I'm not your bank anymore, Danielle. If you want me in your life,